Hello students, and welcome to Biology 205. This is a brief introductory lecture to explain the mechanics of the course, to explain how the course actually works. We won't be discussing any content of the course in this lecture. We'll just be discussing purely trivial things about how the marks are allocated and what things you have to be doing each week. First of all, welcome to the course. My name is Greg Doheny. That's me over there. Some of you might remember me if you've had me for other courses. If you have, welcome back. If not, welcome for the first time. You can email me at any time at gdoheny@columbiacollege.ca. Remember to only communicate with me using your Columbia College email address, because if you send me a letter from any other web server, if you send me a letter from any other email provider, my spam filter might very well filter your letter out, so I may not actually hear from you. So use only your college email address when corresponding with me. Also check your college email address regularly, because I regularly send notifications and announcements to the class over the college email system. So I might be making announcements, and if you're not checking your college email every day, you might miss an important announcement. Okay, so this is a flex course, which means that there is no actual time, there's no specific time during the week that you need to be online. We designed the course this way to make it flexible enough that students in other countries and in other time zones have the ability to take the course without having to be on Vancouver time. Columbia College, of course, is located in Vancouver, but if you're in another country, in another time zone, you can still take the course without having to worry about being on Vancouver time. All right, so I will be holding office hours, and the office hours will be held online using a program called Microsoft Teams. Now, if you've made your way to the if you've made your way to the Moodle page, the college Moodle page for this course, and obviously you have, or you wouldn't be viewing this video, but if you've made your way to the Moodle page, then you know that there's a link on the Moodle page that tells you how to download the Teams program if you don't already have it. So because this is a flex course, I'll be holding 2 office hours, and again, office hours are voluntary. They are only for the benefit of the students. You're not required to attend the office hours. It's voluntary, and it's only for your benefit. So if you want to ask me a question, if you have a question for me, you can attend the office hours, or you can email me as well. I'll be holding 2 different office hours, one on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Vancouver time, and the other late at night by Vancouver standards on Mondays from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m., which is midnight Vancouver time. And the second office hour is intended to make it more convenient for students that are in other countries that are in different time zones. So, for instance, in South Asia and other places, midnight Vancouver time is in the middle of the afternoon there. So, but even if you're in Vancouver, you're welcome to come to either, regardless of where you are, you're welcome to come to either of the office hours. But I have two different office hours. One of them is in the afternoon, one of them is in the late evening, in order to accommodate people in different places. Furthermore, so you have my email address. If you have a question, you can email me. If you have a question, you can ask me using the office hours. And finally, and most importantly, we also have a questions forum on the Moodle page, which you've probably seen. Now, that questions forum is where you can type in a question and everyone sees it. It's in public for everyone to see, and then I will answer it in public. And it's kind of nice to use the questions forum, because if you ask questions in public, other students may have the same question, and then when I type the answer, everybody can read it, right? Or, more importantly, some students may not have thought of your question, right? So other students may, when they see your question, they may realize for the first time that they didn't understand a certain subject, and so then they'll think, oh, I didn't really realize that I didn't understand that, but this question makes it clear that I don't. So what's the answer? So asking questions in the public forum is good. All right, now finally, about the course and the organization. This course is something called a flex course, which means that you're not required to be online at the same time the way you would be with a regular asynchronous course. But what you do have to do is you do have to be on the computer sometime during Wednesday, because the tests every Wednesday we will have one quiz and one research assignment, one internet research assignment, and they both have to be completed sometime on Wednesday. So you do have to be on the computer on Wednesday, but not necessarily at exactly the same hour as the other students. So what happens is, if you look, you'll see that if you scroll down the Moodle page, you'll see that every week I give you a list of things to do. And on Wednesdays, there's a link to a quiz and there's a link to a research assignment. You're given 20 minutes to complete the quiz, and you're given an hour and a half to complete the research assignment. The quiz is usually a bit more challenging because you have to answer 40 multiple choice questions in 20 minutes. You can start the test anytime on Wednesday, but once you've started the quiz, you have to finish it in 20 minutes. Right? And the same thing applies to the open book, to the research assignment. So in the research assignment, I give you a web address, a place to go on the internet. You read something like an article or an information page, and then you answer questions about it. You're given typically an hour and a half to complete that assignment, so you have to read quickly. And then you were actually allowed to have the web page that I sent you to open at the same time as the test page. So for the research assignment, you're allowed to have two different windows open on your browser at the same time, because obviously you have to be reading one page and then you have to be answering the questions on another page. So that is permitted for the research assignment. For the quiz, you're not allowed to have any other windows open on your browser. In fact, the Moodle program is set so that if you try to open another window, it will actually crash the program and you won't be able to finish the assignment. You won't be able to finish the quiz. So the other thing is that we give you a lot of questions, 40 questions to answer in a very short time, 20 minutes. This is stressful. I understand that it's stressful, and it's actually intended to be a bit stressful. The short time period is intended for two reasons. Number one is to not give you enough time to look up answers in case any students are inclined to cheat by looking up answers. The quiz doesn't really give you enough time to look answers up. Secondly, it's meant to be a little bit stressful because we tend to learn things when we're under a little bit of stress. If we're under too much stress, we don't learn anything. And if we're under no stress at all, we don't learn anything. But if we're under a little bit of stress, the information that we're learning actually does stick in our brain. And so that's part of the intent. It's intentional that these quizzes be a little bit stressful. Same thing for the exams. So every Wednesday, at some point, you have to do a quiz and a research assignment, and then at sometime towards the middle of the semester during week 7, on a Wednesday, you do the midterm exam, and then at a date to be determined, we'll all be doing the final exam either at the same time or in two different time zones, depending on what students are able to do. All right, so that is what we mean by a flex section. Everyone has to do a set of assignments on the same day, but not necessarily at the same time. Okay, now what about the textbook? There is a free textbook that you can download from this address. It's called Microbiology by Nina Parker. The address, it's a free textbook. As some of you may know, Columbia College is making an effort to switch, where possible, to free open educational resource materials, because we recognize the fact that textbooks are a very significant expense for students, and we want to make the students' lives more easy by lowering the cost of going to university and college by switching to textbooks. As you know, a typical textbook for a course like this might cost $250. In this course, it costs you nothing because it's downloaded from an open educational resource website called OpenStax. So you must download this textbook. You absolutely must, because one of the research assignments is going to be in what's known as an open book test, where you read a chapter from the textbook and then you answer questions about the chapter that you read. And that is a very stressful exercise, and I'm aware that it's a stressful exercise, but again, it's part of the learning process. So one of the research assignments will be an open book test where you read a chapter from the textbook. And then on the final exam, we will have one section of the final exam will be an open book exercise again, where you read a chapter from the textbook and answer questions about it. So it's as much a test of your knowledge of microbiology as it is a test of your ability to read and comprehend material, which is also part of the thing that we're grading you on. So you do have to download the textbook. Now, the lectures follow loosely from the textbook, but if you're studying for the exams and you're studying for the quizzes, I would put most of your energy into studying the slideshows that we're going to see, the PowerPoint, voiceover PowerPoint slideshows, which we use as lectures. Pay most of your attention to that and do most of your studying from the lectures and the supplementary note sections that I give you in each part of the course. And then if you still don't understand, or if you'd like to learn some more, some other interesting things, you can read the textbook. But most of the questions on the exams and the quizzes will come from the lecture materials and from the supplementary notes that I give you. Okay, so office hours. The office hours are Fridays 5 to 6 and Mondays 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. over the internet using Microsoft Teams. The textbook can be downloaded from the OpenStax website, and you have the option of downloading it as a PDF, or you can, downloading it as a PDF or a PDF app, but you can also simply read it online. So you don't necessarily have to print it out if you don't want to. I prefer to print things out because I like to highlight things in yellow and I scribble notes in the margin, but that's just my preference. I find it easier to learn that way. Other people may find it easier to learn by reading things off the computer screen. All right, so what do we do each week? So each week you go to the Moodle page and you simply scroll downwards, and there's something that will tell you what to do each week. So each week you'll watch one video or more videos. The videos are actually embedded in YouTube, so I've given you the address for the YouTube channel. Some people sometimes have trouble linking from the Moodle page to the YouTube page, which is fine. So in this case, you have the option of just simply going to the YouTube channel itself. Also, then, if you want to review the slides without the narration, because that's quicker to do, you can simply view the slides. I've given you the slides in PDF format, so each week you'll see a link to the video, and then you'll see a link to the slides as a PDF. If you want to, you can read the assigned chapter in the book. The chapter that we're talking about is listed at the beginning of every lecture. You should also read the review notes and the practice problems, which I give you, but I don't give you a set of practice problems or review notes every week. It's once every couple of weeks I give you a new set of notes. So pay attention to those notes and those, especially the practice questions. The practice questions are actually quite useful because those are the types of questions that I ask on the exams. The types of questions that I ask on the little 20-minute quizzes are usually multiple choice, but I may not ask you questions like that on the midterm or the final. The types of questions that I ask you on the midterm and the final are more like the ones that you'll find in the practice problem sets that I give you. Okay, so then sometime on Wednesday you have to be online to take your weekly quiz for 2% of your mark, and sometime on Wednesday you have to complete your research assignment for 2% of your mark, and then we have a final and a midterm as well. So if you look at your Moodle web page, this is kind of what each week looks like. So each week the topic is given to you, right? And it tells you briefly what we're talking about. And then you go down here, and these blue texts are the links to the lectures, and then the links to the slides, and then the links to the notes, and so on and so forth. Right, so this is what each week's Moodle page looks like. All the assignments and all of the sequence of what you're supposed to be doing is located on the same page. So you simply have to scroll down a little bit farther each week to see what you're supposed to be doing. And the blue text hot links will take you to all the materials. Okay, so each week you watch a lecture. Now here's something that you may be interested in, which is that when you're watching the lecture, down here where it says where you have these functions, these three dots here, if you click on them you get some more options, and one of the options is to turn on the transcript. So the YouTube is simultaneously translating the words that I'm saying into written text, so that if you're having trouble understanding what I'm saying, you have the option of reading it as well. So that's another nice option that you have with lectures that are posted on YouTube. Okay, then when you get to Wednesday and you're going to do your assignment, you'll notice that if you click on the blue link, for example, for quiz 1, it takes you to another page, but it says this quiz is not open until Friday, September 11th, 2020, and it closes on Friday 11th at 12:20 or something like that, which tells you that the quiz is not available to be written yet. In other words, you can click on the quiz anytime you want, but you're not allowed to start writing it until Wednesday of that week. And then once you've written it, the following day, you are actually able to go back and view the answers that you got wrong and the answers that you got right. And I would advise you to do that because the questions I use the same questions more than once. So if you got a question wrong, definitely you should learn the right answer. By the way, this is not true of the assignments. So the research assignments that I give you every week, I will never ask you about again. Right? I will never ask you a question about the research assignments, but I will sometimes reuse questions from the quizzes on other quizzes or on other exams. So you should know what all the correct answers are. You have the opportunity to find out after the test is closed. So you write the test, you get a mark. The next day you go back and you look to see which answers you got wrong, which questions you got wrong, and what the true answers are. And then something that I must warn you about is that after a week, the quiz and the research assignments will disappear. So you will not have access to those indefinitely. So this is just it's kind of an anti-cheating mechanism, so that you won't have access to the answers from those quizzes on your page indefinitely. They will disappear after a week. So make sure that you find out what the correct answers are. Okay, so if you're in the right day and you click on the test, it will take you to the quiz page and it will say you're allowed to open it now. As soon as you open the quiz, you have 20 minutes to complete it. The quizzes are interesting in that they are set up so that there are 40 questions that you have to answer in 20 minutes. I'm aware that that's quite stressful, but nevertheless, and those 40 questions are organized 10 questions per page. That means you have to answer the 10 questions and then advance to the next page. Now, when you're doing a quiz, the Moodle program is set so that once you've answered the 10 questions on one page and moved forward, you are not allowed to move back and answer and change your answer. I won't go into the details, but that's an anti-cheating mechanism that makes it more difficult for students to cheat. So you do not have the option of going backwards and changing your answer once you've moved on to the next page of a quiz. Also, the Moodle program is set during the quiz so that you're not allowed to open more than one window at a time, so that you can't open another window and go to the lecture material and look up the answer that way. If you try to open up a second window while you're writing a quiz, the Moodle program will crash and then you won't be able to complete the quiz. Furthermore, if you answer the 10 questions on a page and then you go forward to the next page and then you try to go backward to the previous page, again, the Moodle program will crash and you won't be able to finish the quiz. So don't do either of those things. Okay, the research assignment is a little bit different because you have to be reading the page and answering the questions at the same time. So for the assignment, you are actually allowed to have two windows open at the time on your browser. That's fine, and all of the questions will be on the same page, so you won't have to worry about advancing to the next page or not being able to go back, because all of the questions will be on a continuous scroll on the same page. Right, so that's what the quizzes and the assignments, how they're set up. Okay, so if you go there and you look at the quiz, this is a typical question. So here we have a microscope that took this image, and you have 5 options, and you make your choice. In this one, I answered confocal, what type of microscope took this image, and the answer that I selected is confocal laser scanning microscopy. I happen to know that's the wrong answer, but I deliberately answered it wrong. And then you finish the quiz, and then the next day you go back and you look up your answer. Okay, so you see that that confocal laser scanning microscopy is incorrect. The correct answer written down here is scanning electron microscopy. Right, so then remember that those correct answers will disappear in a week, so make sure that you find out what the correct answer is before the quizzes and assignments disappear. All right, so the research assignments when you click on the link to the assignment, it will give you a page to go to on the internet. In this case, we're going to the World Health Organization fact sheet page, which is found in the World Health Organization. World Health Organization is a very important organization that we're going to talk about a lot in this course, right? And it tells you that you're allowed one attempt and you have 1.5 hours or 2 hours. So we go to a page on the World Health Organization and it gives you some facts about Ebola virus disease, for instance. So you read all this, and then as you're reading it, you answer the questions. It's a bit of a trial to read it and answer the questions at the same time. So you say that there are 6 species of Ebola virus. Which of the following is not one of them? And I write in Mombasa, which is correct. There are several other species of Ebola virus that have these names, but Mombasa is not one of them. Mombasa, by the way, is a city on the continent of Africa, on the African continent. So you get to know what the answers are, but it doesn't matter because I'll never ask you again. But just do your best to give the right answers. Once you've finished with the assignment, you can look to see what the correct answers are if you want, but it doesn't really matter that much because I promise that I will never ask you that again. Okay, so a brief summary of what we do every week. You simply go to the Moodle webpage and you scroll downwards, right? And then you watch every week. You watch a video that's linked to on that week's assignments. You review the slides if you want to. You read the chapter in the book. That's recommended but not required. I think you can learn everything you need to know from the slides and from the lecture and from the lecture notes and the practice problems. So review the lecture notes and the practice problems. Then sometime on Wednesday, take the 20-minute quiz, and sometime on Wednesday, complete the 2-hour research assignment for 2% of your course grades, 4% every week in total, plus we'll be having a midterm and a final for the remainder of your marks. So we have 10 of these quizzes for a total of 20%. We have 10 of the research assignments for a total of 20%. We have a midterm exam worth 20% and a final worth 40%, and that's how the marks are allocated for this course. Okay, so when am I required to be online? Basically, you have the option of attending the office hours on Mondays or Fridays, but I'm sorry, that's Mondays or Fridays. Friday one is not listed there, but anyway, so you have the option of attending the office hours. It's not required, but you must be online at some point on Wednesday to complete the quiz and the research assignment and the final and the midterm. Okay, so remember that quizzes and tests can only be done from memory. You're not allowed to have any books or reading materials. You're not allowed to use any other windows on the computer. In fact, the Moodle program will crash the program if you try to do that. For the research assignment, this is basically an open book exercise, so you're allowed to have 2 windows open. That's permitted, and the program will allow you to do that as well. And it is necessary for you to download the textbook so that you have access to it, because one of the research assignments is going to be literally an open book exercise where I give you 2 hours to read a chapter in the textbook and then answer questions about it. So instead of reading the World Health Organization website, you'll be reading the textbook and then you'll be answering questions about it in a 2-hour period. And that will give you practice for the final exam, because one of the sections, the final exam has 3 sections to it, and one of the sections is a section where you have to read a chapter from the textbook and answer questions about it. So the research assignment will give you some practice on how to do that, and the final exam will include an open book exercise involving the textbook. Right, so make sure you're able to do that. Make sure you downloaded the textbook. Okay, so good luck and happy learning. I hope you learned something and perhaps have a little bit of fun as well.